Ooh. Wow.
That was
Hopefully you hear that later when you're editing.
That sounded like it hurt.
Yeah, no, it actually didn't.
that was not exactly your normal clap, but it works. I'm pretty sure.
It showed up on the thing.
When I edited the last video and did the whoopsh thing to it just to make it sound good, we could do that again.
Okay, so we're here. We're trying some stuff. We'll see if all this works out. Bear with us.
I have good faith.
I hope so.
Moving forward, trudging forward.
Fingers crossed.
So, what are we talking about today?
Have we even talked about switching over from asinine to dark tree? I know we want to move on to.
Yeah, we did. Okay,
so that's already been talked about.
Well, we just said was our last. This was our first hurrah with Dark Tree Media.
Perfect.
But this is a new venture for us. I'm really excited about it because we're untethered here. We can kind of do what we want, say what we want. Anybody in the group can do that. So I think that today, to be honest with you, the most transparency that you can have, it wasn't in our group last time, mainly just because we couldn't do what we wanted. And now it's like I don't care what people do. I don't care what people post, just as long as they feel represented and heard. And it wasn't really like that last time.
We're trying to keep Andy's white supremacy stuff off the page, but other than that.
I know. It's that quarter. It's getting to her.
Yeah, it's like Hawaii. I'm looking at
Japanese supremacy.
I'm looking at you, Hawaii. And,
that's actually a real thing.
Okay, so in all seriousness, we're going to start with voter shaming today, right?
Yes, I think it's a good topic, and especially right now with how polling's going, and when we start really diving into it, we got a couple articles that we're going to pull up for you guys just to kind of dive into what I think is really going to start affecting polling from here into the future, because our polls actually working anymore, and that's what I'm really worried about, because I don't think polling is actually is where it's as credible as it used to be in the past, because the way the media is and the way internet is now and how polling is accomplished and how it's done, a lot of them aren't even polling likely voters. They're just polling people that watch CNN or online main media. So it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think that we're just in a weird time in history here. Where a lot of people do hate Donald Trump. I mean, he pisses a lot of people off, and because like before, back in the day, I mean, like it seemed like polls were always decently accurate. I was lied to in 2012, right, when Mitt Romney was running against Obama, and they kept saying that the polls are wrong. The polls are wrong. Mitt Romney, there's more people that are excited about it and whatever. And of course, the polls were not wrong. And then you get to 2016, and it's like, okay, I've already played this game before. People are telling me the polls are wrong. I don't believe it. And then the polls, and they weren't completely wrong, but a lot of the state polls were really bad. And then I think what was there, it was still off at least a few percentage, which made the difference. And then when we look at it, you got to take into account the whole idea that a conservative, a Republican, they can win with losing the popular vote by 3%, especially if it's just tallied up and, where they run up big numbers in California. Because I think if you discount California just by itself, I think if you take the other 49 states and add them up, Trump wins the popular vote. But once you add in California, it throws in that, because he lost by 3 million or whatever. Mm-hmm. Is it going to happen again, man? I mean, but now the polls they're way different than they were last time, and they're at least like 6 points different.
Yeah,
I don't know what that means.
Well, and then you start looking at a lot of the voter shaming, I think, that we're talking about going on. How many people actually say they're going to vote for Trump and say it proudly, or say they're going to vote for Biden and then go vote for Trump just because they just want to answer the poll and they want to get rid of it. And a lot of people. I think Tim Pool talked about this. He was talking about people, even when it was anonymous and they were calling on the phone, people still didn't want to answer because they didn't trust it. Mm-hmm. They didn't trust that was actually going to be anonymous, because your phone number is still tagged to that anonymous pool saying, okay, that phone number said they're going to vote for Trump, and they don't really trust that. So I think that's some of it.
How do these polling places get phone numbers?
I think they buy them. I think they purchase.
Where's this? Why am I on a list?
I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, I don't get very many.
See, that to me is just kind of like it. I mean, that's just kind of weird in general. Like, why? How'd you get my number? Where is this from? Like,
Could be when you register to vote too. That could be in that.
How do they get the people that aren't registered?
That's they're getting likely voters, so they may not be getting those people. That's what I'm saying. That it's not really. I don't think it's really clear. I can Google it real quick, see if I can find it.
I think it's also possible that Andy is on many governmental lists. Now, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that that's just what I hear from my people.
Who are your people?
No, and I don't even know. Like, if they have called me, I've never answered. And I don't trust that stuff, so I have no clue. So I've never taken a poll, and I certainly don't trust any of the online polling. So, I mean, the best I can do is, like, when we go through Real Clear Politics, is compare a lot of the polls to themselves and see if there's a general trend in those polls. So I try to go through every time I see, like, oh, this one's Biden plus 10. What did the last one say? Okay, it was plus 10. What did the one say before that? Okay, it was plus 10 again. So it's not really changing much. But I don't know. Maybe Biden really does have almost a 10-point lead right now. Maybe. What are you trying to pull up, man?
Well, I was telling you just a little bit ago, like, I answered a phone call thinking it was someone from work, but it wasn't. It was a research center, and I was like, no, I don't want to answer any phone calls or any questions and stuff. But I feel like I have a lot of spam numbers that call me, but I've had a lot of numbers from Omaha call me, which is where I lived.
Yep.
Most of those are my number.
I get a lot of,
I've been trying to get a hold of you.
I get a lot of calls from Nevada, just because my phone number, and I lived in. So you're tied to that. I voted in Nevada, so like I'm tied to that. So like I get polling calls from Nevada, and I also duked it out with one of the senators in Nevada because he stopped by my house. I had just finished a run, and he had stopped by my house, and it was an actual senator, and I had talked to him for like 30-40 minutes, and it was kind of fun. It was nice. So, but he was in. But those people, they really canvassed Las Vegas when I was there in Las Vegas. They had a big canvassing in a ground game there, and that was Mitt Romney and Obama in that time period. All right.
I'm distracting the group here.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so what else did you want to talk about? You wanted to get into the Bradley effect, or were you wanting to?
So I'm trying to find out Andy's question right now to see how they get your number.
Yeah.
So I mean, right now, how polling is done. This is how polls are conducted. If you want to poll this, I just went to. If you go to polling fact, and this is like frequently asked questions, Pew Research methods.
Which I think I've seen they do online and calling.
Yeah. See, you can volunteer to be a poller. Some of them are entered by computers, and it's just like random area codes and polling information. Some of it's like randomized, so they don't know who they're dialing. And if it's a cell phone, they personally enter the information. A computer doesn't do it, so they have your number from somewhere. So that's really interesting.
I wonder if they're getting that information from the parties. Like if you,
I think so.
If you say you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever you might be, I wonder if they're pulling it from when you register to vote.
So here's I'm on a do not call list. Doesn't that prevent you from calling me? No, legitimate survey research is exempt from the telemarketing sales rule, which was adopted by the Federal Trade Commission to fight fraud and protect consumers from harassment. So because it's part of polling, they're exempt from that rule. So they're probably buying information. Like, I'm sure what happens is they buy information and get numbers that way too. Or it's given to them because it's for polling. It's for the political, it's for the presidential election. So they probably have like numbers that way too. They're probably given that information. And they take that sample and they randomize it and then they call. Supposedly randomize it.
I wonder if that would leave the door open for people who maybe they haven't voted before, or they haven't voted. Maybe they've only voted like once before. If they're less likely to be bothered in these kind of things, maybe it's people who vote the most. I wonder if it skews towards a certain type of person, type of voter. That's what. I don't know. I'm just saying.
So I'm on Pew Research, and it goes, "Do you survey Asian Americans?" That's one of the questions, frequently asked questions, which is weird.
That's an odd demographic to single out.
Yeah, let's see here. How'd you get my number? Okay, most good telephone surveys of the general public use what's called a random digit dial, RDD. sampling technique to generate a sample of phone numbers used in the survey. The goal is to ensure that your phone number, that your telephone has the same chance of being dialed as any telephone in the United States. When using this type of telephone sample, pollsters do not know the names of the people who are called. For more information on this method of selecting telephone numbers, please see random digit dialing. So that's the RDD is how they get telephone numbers. So that's just random digit. So yeah, so it's like do and they just randomly.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's interesting. And then they're just doing that poll research. So I guess but they're selecting area codes to do that in. So that's how the polling gets skewed, is because if you look at some of the polling that's done like Alabama and states that are heavily Trump, or like Kansas, there may be one poll in the last 5 months, because they're not polling all. They're trying to find like battleground states where all the polls are going to swing or not swing. But they're doing. So I was listening to the ABC this morning, and like, oh, an Maricopa County poll. I'm like, okay, that's the largest county in Arizona. I mean, I'm sorry, maybe actually one of the largest counties in Arizona, and it's by Phoenix. And so it's one of the largest counties. It might be a little bit more, the demographic might be a little bit more liberal just because it's the largest area, but doesn't encompass the whole state. So that Pew Research for, the Arizona battle state, Joe Biden's up by 4 points, I think it might be misleading, because sometimes they're randomizing in a specific area to make a poll look specific, because they're going by area code. So they take the area code of Maricopa County, and that's how they extrapolate it.
Gotcha.
So then and then you get into like voter shaming, so people wanting to say they vote for Trump, but then that number that they just called, that number's logged on there, and that number's logged to, okay, well, this person voted Trump on this number, or this person said they're going to vote Biden on this number. So people, even when people was talking about voter shaming, and they were talking about how it's relative to, even if it's anonymous, is it really anonymous because they still have your number? And then what's your number tagged to? Oh, your number's tagged to purchases, or everything else that you can do. And then you can you can reverse engineer the number and then look it up that direction. You can really find people, and then you can exploit them, and they call it doxing, and then you start doxing people. So I think people are, not that it happens, but I think people don't trust it, so then they don't give the right answers. So I think that's when the Bradley effect and stuff comes in there. What's this?
Do you remember when this came out? This is that Cato Institute poll. I'll show it to everybody.
Perfect.
This is that Cato Institute poll that was showing that people there was only one group who feel like they were comfortable explaining their views and talking about their political views online or anywhere.
This is the poll I'm talking about.
The only one was strong liberal.
Yep.
Liberal, moderate, conservative, and strong conservative.
I mean, that's huge.
They skew towards not talking about. They do not want to talk about what's going on politically and what they believe politically, because they think others might find it too offensive.
And it's so volatile. I mean, people don't want to talk about politics anyhow. Well, they do, and they don't. But like, really, the stuff that you're seeing on like Facebook or social media and Twitter, it's a lot of strong liberal people like saying, like, screaming and yelling and.
Especially Twitter.
Voter shaming everybody. Like, if you vote for Trump, then you unfriend me. You know how many conservatives I know that are friends with liberals, but the opposite way around, it's completely crazy. Like, you are trash, you are racist, you are. I mean, the name and then the insulting. I mean, it does nothing productive to move our country forward. You have to have conservatives in our country. If everything was just pure liberal, the problem with that is that checks and balance of having multiple systems, multiple parties, gets completely debunked and lost, and that's why we're in the situation now. That's why we got a douche and a turd to vote from.
Yeah, I'm not saying this is true. I've just heard this said many times. And the saying goes, the right thinks the left is wrong, the left thinks the right is evil. That idea, and I was arguing with one of my liberal friends just yesterday, and he was telling me that the right is morally reprehensible, because he was bringing up illegal immigration and racism and all this different stuff, and it's like, oh gosh, dude, I'm like, because I think both sides. I mean, I don't think either side is more morally justified or right than the other side, and that was my point. My point was like, hey, I don't believe that. I mean, I think certainly there are people on the right who have great hearts and all this different stuff, and they're doing everything for the right reasons. And there's leftists who also are people on the left that are the same way, they're the same exact way. And then there's maybe there's that far right element, that segment, and far left element that I think are morally reprehensible.
Yep.
But I think it's a very small fraction. But for some reason, like we get in our camps and then we like hate each other. Tribalism stuff.
So pull up the Bradley effect and let's have Andy read it.
Okay,
because I think that what you just said delivers it to this perfectly, because that reason right there is why people why this even came into being. This was from 1982.
Okay, did we go through this? Is this what we wanted to read?
Yeah.
Just that piece at the top?
Yeah, just kind of what it is.
Yeah, we don't want to affect your mortgage rates, guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
We here at DTM do not support that. We support good mortgage rates, but not whoever. I'm not sure who this is.
Yeah. The Bradley effect, sometimes called the Wilder effect, is a concept that attempts to explain discrepancies between voter opinion polls and outcomes in elections where white candidates campaign against minority candidates.
So real quick.
Yeah.
So we know they're both white. I'm just saying like the concept of this, and how it goes into voter shaming. So if we were to take out, white and versus minority and just put in voter shaming and use the same effect, that's what I was trying to get to on this.
Yeah.
Just so people don't freak out when they read that.
Adherents of the Bradley effect believe that some voters will tell pollsters that they are undecided or likely to vote for a minority candidate, but will vote against the minority candidate on Election Day. It was named for Tom Bradley, an African-American candidate who lost in the 1982 California
gubernatorial
race, despite having a lead in the polls going into the election.
So I think it's really important when you notice that. So that same effect, and we can make up a new term for it if you want to. We can call it the voter shaming effect, whatever you want. I'm sure there's a cooler name for it. But that's really interesting when you really start thinking about it, is because take out race, and nothing to do with Kamala Harris, nothing to do with Joe Biden or Trump. You just specifically just base it on, do you feel comfortable? And you go back to that other KDO Institute poll. So we're going to go back to here. Staunch liberals stand out as the only group who feels that they can share their political opinions because mainstream media is backing them. People, when you say something outlandish that seems, on fringe or what would have been fringe in past decades. So my point is, you take that and then you take people not wanting to say, I'll vote for Joe. I agree with you, because those people aren't afraid to call you out, aren't afraid to tell you that you should be fired from your job, or they aren't afraid to tell you that they're going to cancel you and come after you. You know what I mean? They have no reprehension for making sure that they take you down personally. Even though if they say they stand for everybody, these people will destroy your life. Mm-hmm. They will see you burn. And has no place for politics. And whether the fucking you right or left, it has no place for politics. They will see you burn at the stake. So so you look at the Bradley effect, and you really pull that shit back up, and it's like, oh my god, you know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna tell people I'm voting for Trump.
I feel like this is just very concerning. I wish more people would see this, because that is just so concerning. And I mean, honestly, like it aligns with what I've seen, with all you guys have seen.
I think the number that gets me the most is the people who identify as moderates. Mm-hmm. That 64% of moderates don't feel like they can talk about their views.
Because I'm technically more moderate, yeah.
I understand this is probably people who identify as that, but most of the people that I know that identify as moderate are typically pretty moderate people. They believe a little bit of left, a little bit of right. So even those average people...
You're 64% of the country, pretty much. Like, I would say a lot of the country is moderate or very center-left, or they're center, and they're either a little bit left or a little bit right. They're not these huge extremes. Yeah. They're not these, aggressive progressives, or they're not like the Tea Party, the alt-right, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The alt-right is not all conservatives. No, very few of conservatives are alt-right. Very few of liberals are progressive. But the ones that we hear the most from are the progressives. And I think I'm sorry, I don't want to say progressives, because I think that progressives are a good part of liberal. It's not the progressives. It's the Antifa. It's the
far left,
you know what I mean? Because progressives do good things for the country, and they do put out ideals UBIs, or pushing agendas for healthcare. I think those are important subjects that we have to talk about. But they're not the far left are the ones that are causing this disparity, because it's not. You're starting to see cancel culture and the wokeism and all the other shit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's an honest left and an honest right, and those people have to come closer together. And that's why I love Brett Weinstein, and I know that you listen to him a lot as well. And that's what, to me, he's self-identifies as a progressive liberal, and but he's honest. He's very honest about everything he says. It's not just lathered in politics or whatever. Like he's just telling me the truth about what he believes is true. And I have a ton of respect for that. So I really love that's why I like that whole idea of him trying to put together like a unity ticket, and he does all kinds of cool stuff. And I love what he's doing. And, they had like an online poll or whatever, for their unity ticket idea, and the people that won because they had like, I can't remember how many they had, but they voted on them. The people that won were Tulsi Gabbard and, Dan Crenshaw.
I love Tulsi Gabbard.
And having those two together, and that's what they're trying to.
He's a patch, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's very, very honest.
Can you imagine him talking? He's like a world leader. He looks intimidating.
It's so cool.
Real cool guy. I like him. And, he has. I don't know if you watched his Joe Rogan, but he was.
I did. Joe Rogan. Yeah, and then Tulsi Gabbard has that Cruella de Vil hair thing going on.
Oh, well, I think to me, when I look at her, the first time I saw her, and who I thought she should have played up, in ads and stuff, was Rogue.
Yeah,
was Rogue, and when she was
Rogue
on
was
stage,
badass,
she was on stage with Kamala Harris,
destroyed
she
her.
Totally stole her power,
dude. Which
is exactly what
no one
does.
talks. So we're talking about voter shaming, and then when we're watching the VP debate. I mean, what do you think, Andy? When Tulsi Gabbard goes after her, Kamala Harris, and Kamala Harris never has to answer for all the shit she has said about Joe Biden and about busing or about all this other stuff that Joe Biden's done throughout his political career. Tulsi Gabbard or Kamala Harris was going after Joe Biden for that. And we know that's political, fire. I mean, Ted Cruz and, Joe Biden or Trump didn't get along, and now they do. But man, now she's a running mate. Like Ted Cruz isn't Trump's running mate,
Yeah.
So how do you feel? What do you think
about
this and voter shaming and, what are your thoughts on everything?
I just wonder, if we don't try and stop some of this, it's going to get even worse. And then I don't know where it goes from there. It's not a good spot if we keep letting this go unchecked. I think social media is a large part of that problem, and I wish we could just get rid of it. At least maybe Twitter.
When you were getting your pharmaceutical degree, did you even at that level, was it still liberal or was it more even?
It was pretty even, I would say. There were sometimes, and I'm going based off of like feeling. I can't remember exactly any examples.
Well, pull your friend group. You have a lot of friends that are pharmacists. How do you feel that plays out? We're not naming names or anything, but like, how do you, in that group of pharmacists that like, how do you at that level? Do you think that they're more conservative because of higher education, or do you feel like they're more liberal because of the higher education?
I think you got a mix of both. But I think overall in the profession, more left.
More left? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm just curious on how, just in your friend group, how does that work out? Like, is it more is it far left, or is it more like we're talking about where the right and left need to come together and you're able to have that?
More of that, yeah.
Yeah, see, and that's when but media doesn't make it seem like that at all.
No.
They make it seem like this, and I think that's why people are very shy about it, or shy to come on the podcast or hang out and just talk, hey, what are your life experiences? And because we're doing that, we talked to Sindhu, and that was a great conversation. And, and I really enjoyed it. And it's really nice to hear somebody that has a very completely different opinion than you, but it's nice. It's refreshing. I don't want to talk to a brick wall all the time.
I think talking to people is the most important part, because I kind of lost my train of thought there because I was trying to think of a name and I just couldn't come up with it right away. But I'll be back to that in a second. But that's the only way we're going to be able to break down any barriers, and we're going to be able to have real conversations. Because if not, man, it's just going to keep going. It's just going to keep going the exact same way that it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Daryl. What I was trying to think of was Daryl Davis. I believe that's his name.
That was awesome.
And just the idea of talking to people and changing people's minds by showing them that you mean well and you're a good person and whatnot. Do you know who Daryl Davis is?
I do not.
Daryl Davis was that black jazz musician from the South, and he tells his story about he did a gig down south, and he shook this man's hand, and the guy says to him, he was like, man, this is the first time that
okay, yeah, I've heard about this.
Yeah,
can you pull that up on the screen?
Yeah. Yeah, he was like, oh, go away, you stupid.
I know, I hate that shit.
He was like, the guy had said to him, this is the first time I've ever shaken a black man's hand before. And he was like, why? And then eventually one of the other guys that he was with, said he was a KKK member. And he had like the card, like he ends up pulling out the card out of his wallet. And Daryl Davis stays there and talks to him. Mm-hmm. And then they exchange numbers. And over years, he keeps meeting with him over and over again. And eventually that guy gives up his robe, and he gave it to Daryl Davis. Daryl Davis collects him now. Mm-hmm. He's gotten 200 people by himself. He's gotten 200 people to...
that gives me chills. That's so cool.
Oh, listen to him and Joe Rogan. It is amazing.
He's on Joe Rogan, and he goes through his whole story. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty awesome. And he's just a musician. He's just an average everyday. I mean, he's done really well. Like he's played with some of the greatest musicians, in the jazz.
What a cool story, though. Sound. I mean, why aren't we highlight? Why? Okay, so why isn't CNN or MSNBC or I don't know if Fox ran this? Probably not.
I know. I think everybody ran it because I posted it at the time because.
But people, and then people are like, "Oh, you're just using that to make Trump look." I'm like, "No, motherfuckers! I'm using this because this is what people need to aspire to be and aspire to do. It's like opening up dialogue and communication and being able to have that. I mean, that's such a lost art form in today's society. Everything is like, if you're not with us, you ain't if you don't join us, then you ain't with us or whatever that phrase is. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a cool picture.
Here was one of the main articles that I saw that I reposted.
Oh, NPR. What's up, NPR?
Yeah, how one man convinced 200 Ku Klux Klan members to give up their robes. And he was, like I said, he was just on Joe Rogan not too long ago. Mm-hmm. And it's just an incredible story. And that's how we beat this stuff. That's how we get better.
Yeah, who would I don't understand like people that join stuff like the Ku Klux Klan or any kind of like hate group at all. It's ridiculous. I mean, there's no place for them.
My guess is they just grew up in some kind of a culture. Like they're in some microcosm where for some reason they're blaming other people, projecting on other people about their own inadequacies, and they can't see through it, right? So this guy comes along and takes it upon himself, even though I'm not saying he should have to or anything, but takes it upon himself to help these people.
But we should have to, though. Talking to your neighbor, being in a community, that's what America's about. I mean, that's something that has been lost upon us, and that's the thing that social media is completely destroying. Is that we don't feel like we need to take it upon ourselves. No, we do. We need to talk to each other. We have to talk to each other because if you don't, we live in a fucked up city-state, and the state's going to run everything, and that's what's really scary. And then, you look at this, and that's beautiful. I mean, this guy is converting people, taking them on hate groups, because I agree with you, Jesse. These people grew up, and no one loved them. No one probably showed them love, and they found a group of people that's like, they could say what they felt, even though it might have been right or wrong, and they could, they could have these ideals and they felt comfortable and they felt safe and protected, and then that's how those groups thrive. And I think that's what's happening right now with the far left is like they feel comfortable and safe because no one will go say anything against them. They'll let them say all this crazy bullshit and no one's gonna stand up to them. No one's gonna, because they're all scared to, that somebody's gonna come after them. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we need more stories like this. We really do, on all sides of the aisle.
Before we wrap it up, I mean, I guess one of the other parts about, like, just in voter shaming in general, is the whole third party angle. Where anybody's like, well, no, if you vote for third party, you're it's a vote for Trump or it's a vote for insert person's name.
I just got that last night. Yeah.
Right, and then they say that over and over. I'm like, no, you can't do this. This is an existential threat, and we cannot allow this to happen. You must vote for one of these two parties, and I think it's sickening.
No. Earn my vote. If you want my vote, fucking earn my vote. Tell me something that's going to make me earn my vote. And right now, I don't think anybody's earned my vote. I'm going to make people earn my vote, and I don't think anybody has right now. And I'm dead serious about that, and I love Jimmy Dore because Jimmy Dore harps on that all the time. Is like, make those motherfuckers earn your vote. All these Hollywood people that are voting in Hollywood, they're like, oh, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, we're voting for you. I'm like, okay, but you sealed it. You're allowing them to not have any type of plan. Zero type of plan at all. What is Joe Biden even running on? He's gonna put a task force to help coronavirus that looks just like Trump's task force. Are you fucking kidding me? The media that's complaining about President Trump, whether you like him or not, that's what he's gonna come out with. That's his big plan. Oh, we're doing more testing, and we're gonna make more advancements. Oh, okay, that's a fucking plan. Well, thanks a lot, Joe. Oh, Joe, you're going to pack the course. I'm not going to answer that until after I vote. How come no one's holding them accountable? And then when you do voter shaming and you tell people, well, if I'm not going to vote for you, well, you have to because Donald Trump is a threat. You know what I mean? Or the right will tell you, well, you can't let Joe Biden in there. He's going to turn their country into a communist state. You know, they'll tell you shit like that. I'm like, no, they're going to fucking earn my vote. And if I don't feel like they've earned my vote, they didn't earn my vote. You know, Ross Perot took, what was it, like 3% of the vote or whatever it was? Not even.
20%.
20%?
Yeah, he had 20% that year. And I think Bush had like 35%.
Yeah, Bush didn't earn those
Clinton
votes.
had like 43% or something.
Bush should have worked harder.
But I mean, well, it drives me nuts that the Perot couldn't like win states even with 20%. It's actually really upsetting. We got to change the system, or it's going to keep screwing third-party candidates.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And I think the American people are going to get hurt, especially looking at the next stimulus package if it ever gets passed.
I think they're talking. There was just an article today about that actually.
They're trying
Is
to
that
make
the
a
one
new deal.
where
Trump's going to give them more than they asked for, I think.
Well,
was
I
it
saw
1.8?
1.8.
I thought 2.2 trillion.
That's what they want. That's what Democrats wanted, 2.2 trillion, whatever. And then I think the new offer from Mnuchin is 1.8. I haven't seen any of the specifics, and it may still not happen. Maybe they won't back down because, I mean, why would the Democrats back down off of it? I mean, they're the ones. I mean, really, they're the ones with the leverage, right? I mean, okay, these two groups should come together and do it for the American people, but what's the political incentive to do it right now? And really, I mean, because you could just say, well, that's going to hurt Trump, right? I mean,
yeah.
I think it probably does hurt Trump. I think they're probably right. It's a crude calculation.
This is from 7 hours ago. Now is the time for us to come together and immediately vote on a bill that will allow us to spend the unused Paycheck Protection Program funds while we continue to work towards a comprehensive package. This is from the White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, and the Treasury Secretary, Stephen Mnuchin, wrote in a letter on Sunday to members of the House and the Senate. The all-or-nothing approach is the unacceptable response to the American people. This is from Politico. The letter follows a bevy of mixed signals in the administration over the past week, which include President Donald Trump abruptly breaking off stimulus talks, which I was completely against, then reversing course and then insisting on a variety of relief measures. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Sunday rejected the latest $1.8 trillion stimulus offer from Mnuchin, which is fucking ridiculous. Some Republicans, meanwhile, have been wary of greenlighting yet another hefty relief package. Here's my problem with that. We're in the middle of a pandemic.
I know.
We're getting ready. We're on the cusp of a large evictions getting ready to happen because the eviction moratorium is coming up, and people need money, and just give them money. We're the United States of America. We can afford to give people money, and you got Nancy Pelosi, like, what is that, 0.4, like 400 mil? She doesn't want it. Like, what? Like, what? Like, just fucking give, like, it's 1.8, 2.2. I'm like, the partisan hack jobs that are in our fucking country, and this is what happens, people, when you don't hold people accountable, and you tell people, oh, I'm going to vote all red, or I'm going to vote all blue, and you're a blue check or you're a red check voter. This is what you get. You get people like Nancy Pelosi, who's a war criminal, who was a George Bush fan, and look at Kamala Harris. You know, Kamala Harris said that she likes war criminals too. She liked how many people from the Bush campaign. Bush is a terrible president.
I thought that was so funny when she was like, "Well, we have these people from the Bush administration backed us," and I'm like, "Well, that's a fucking good reason not to vote for you."
Oh, so we want more wars.
like I mean, thank you. That's the greatest reason to not vote for you ever.
Like we want more wars. Trump is like the first president in modern history to not be in a fucking war.
I think it's his first one since Jimmy Carter's. I believe that's right.
That's stupid.
So it's not modern history. But to me,
modern. I mean, but still, I mean, since 1970, since 1976 to 76 to 79, or
was
whatever.
That 40 years plus?
Yeah, I mean that's what you're looking at. So you're looking at
almost
Reagan,
half a century.
Bush,
So
Clinton.
I would call
Bush,
that modern history.
Obama.
Then to us modern, but so recent history. I mean, 40 years, half a century.
That's a long time.
Half a century. We've been in a fucking war. You know, we have peace in the Middle East, and whether it's it's something. You know what I mean? I mean, this is why I think that people are underestimating Trump because they have tropes about Trump voters, and they get these far radical people on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. These motherfuckers don't hold them accountable, and they completely go against conservatives. And all of a sudden, you're gonna keep knocking on the vote, and then come November 3rd. You're gonna see people probably voting a lot for Trump. And there was a poll out there. I couldn't find it, Jesse. I don't know if you can find it real quick. But there was a poll out there that had Trump winning in all battleground states, and he was up +1 in the general election.
I think you showed me that yesterday.
Go to Real Clear Politics real quick. Look, scroll up there. Can you put this on the screen?
Yeah, I'm gonna put that on.
Look at this shit. And this may be right. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong.
Based on this, I mean, Trump does not have a chance.
Yeah, he has no chance. This is the complete landslide, which I don't think it's going to be. I think these are very underestimated.
I mean, because if this were real, I mean, you'd be looking at Biden getting like 400 electoral votes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you'd be looking at.
How many are there?
535.
535,
right?
yeah. Go.
Or no, 538. Because I think DC
go up
has
real quick,
3,
Jesse.
don't they?
Since it's all like this, go.
Oops, damn it! It just.
You're okay. Go up to.
It was on Real Quick Politics.
Go to polls. Mm-hmm. Go to battle. Can you go to the map? Is it on this one? Go to the election 2020.
I'll go back over here real quick and then I'll come back.
It's on election 2020. There we go. Go to electoral map. RCP electoral map. There we go. Pull that bitch up. Okay, here we go. Here you go, Andy. So I just wanted people to see this.
Okay, I'll pull that back up here.
Sweet. Okay. So this is what we're looking at right now. So this is like on election day, Trump had Florida, Georgia, Texas. He built like a red wall over here.
I think you still
Wisconsin,
have those. Or
Iowa,
maybe not Wisconsin
Michigan.
and Michigan and them. I think you'll still end up with Iowa, Texas, Florida,
Pennsylvania.
Georgia.
He won Pennsylvania by 5 last time. 5 points.
I think he'll win Ohio as well.
I do too.
No, Pennsylvania, didn't he win by 80,000 votes in Pennsylvania? I thought he won by 80,000 votes. I thought the total, or maybe it was total between the 3 states, like between Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania it was like 90,000 total votes or something like that.
Are these are the electoral how much each state has? Are they?
Yes. So these are so.
Well, are they? When are they? Are they ever like reevaluated or redistributed?
Reps plus senators.
Reps plus senators.
So
yep.
so every time there's a census, like there's about to be, because that's why they were having that census fight about whether illegal immigrants should count and whether or not to have the question on
making Washington. Here's the thing: is if they make Puerto Rico and Washington D.C. a state, a Republican may have a hard time ever winning another election.
Because as soon as they do that, they wouldn't get very many reps. Because Washington D.C., I believe they still have 3 reps. But they would get 2 senators, and so each one of those places get 2 senators. So they don't have very many reps, but they all get 2 senators apiece. So it would load up the
House,
Senate.
Yep, and the Senate. Sorry, the Senate.
So this will be very interesting then with the census this year, because there's been a lot of people leaving California. I mean, I don't know how many.
I think the census is already done before a lot of that was happening.
That's gonna be the problem.
Right. So
that's not gonna be
California might be overrepresented.
Yep. Well, yeah. Could be, absolutely.
Well, they do.
That's why Arizona's kind of a purple state, because a lot of people are leaving California and they're heading to Arizona. So if you look at this, so we got 55 plus 29. That's out of 2 states. So scroll up, Jesse, so they can see this.
What's that?
Scroll up. Okay, so right here, leave right there.
Okay.
So if you look at the 125 and the 226, Biden's 226 out of the 2 states is over a third.
Oh yeah, well that's
pretty nuts.
Electoral college votes. Trump has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like almost 10 states that make up like 3 of Biden's. It's kind of crazy.
Well, that's
weird
because I go back and forth with people on the electoral college and whether or not it should exist, and maybe this isn't a very good argument, but California by itself has a higher population than the bottom 20 states combined.
Yep.
20 states. It's just amazing.
So if you got rid of the electoral college, the problem with that, you kind of end up with the Articles of Confederation, which is the first 13 colonies. That's what America was called before the Declaration of Independence. And so what was happening was the bigger states were pushing around the smaller states. So then they came up with the House and the Senate, and then that's when all the 3/5 compromise stuff started happening. But like you start getting into all of that. I mean, that's kind of why it was set up. So the Electoral College was around too to kind of censor some of that as well, especially as America started growing.
I was going to ask about that too, if that actually achieves its goal.
I say yes, it does. But I mean, a lot of people go back and forth. And Chris, obviously, he had a long article about why we should get rid of the Electoral College, and they want to go to. But I mean,
well, is it because they lost? Like,
and that's the thing. I mean,
they want to go with by popular vote.
That's what I think. That's
the
what
problem
Chris
is. Does the popular vote really? Does it really actually? Because here's my problem with okay, so you're talking about electoral college, right? And what it's meant to do. Does the popular vote really say the state of America? So if you pull that one, I sent you that map of the geographical areas that actually vote conservative, it's almost the entire country.
Yeah.
And if you look at really the epicenters of blue, so this says all blue here, right? But if you dive into California and you look how much of California is actually red and just the metropolitan areas, is it really a true focus on how the majority of the actual country feels? Because you got to take consideration. A lot of people here, they work differently than the people in the metros, and they have different lifestyles. And as a country, we got to take that into consideration. Is it really the popular vote? I mean, it's just large cities that have multiple people in it, and you're able to affect a larger. So it's easier to reach all these people now in these big areas, have big turnouts and voting and whatnot. And the ground game is easier in California than it is in Kansas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Huh, that's very interesting.
You can hit 100,000 people faster in fucking California in LA than you would ever be able to hit in Kansas City. So think about just the ground game in general. Like, so really, is it really that hard to get your message across? And not to even get into the fucking fact that over 100 million Americans don't even fucking vote.
Yeah.
So I disagree with that argument. I think the argument that he made is just disingenuous.
Well, I mean, he has it. It's well plotted out and whatnot. It's been a little while since I've read it, but I just remember that was like his big thing, And he did, it's well done. It just, I just don't agree with it. So I don't agree with the idea.
I think it serves a purpose. That's the problem with it.
It most certainly serves a purpose.
My argument doesn't serve a purpose. My argument is, how do we completely represent the entire country and not. This is why mob rule doesn't exist, people. And getting rid of
it does not exist.
No, getting rid of
or should not.
We're a republic.
In terms of having the electoral college.
Yes, we are.
So it's not just like a 51% majority telling everybody else, telling the other 49% what to do,
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You make people earn your damn vote. Hillary Clinton should have went to Wisconsin and Michigan. She completely ignored them. That's why Biden has been there so much.
Yeah, interesting.
So if you keep shaming people and you keep
where exactly is Biden's basement located? I'm not sure. Is it one of those
Scranton.
Scranton.
Really?
I don't think so. I don't think he's there anymore. But he's
in Scranton, isn't he?
I
don't know where the fuck he lives.
He only lived in Scranton for so many years.
Oh.
Remember,
he mentions that. He won't shut the fuck up about Scranton. When I was in Scranton,
he lived there like when he was like a young kid, and then he moved away after that.
I don't talk. See, that's so weird. I don't know if that's part of like what's going on with his mind, but like, I mean, to me, it's like you're just using the people of Scranton. When I grew up in Scranton, I mean, I don't.
Well, it's because he's like white collar. He wants to look like blue collar Joe. Like
he's white collar, man. He's a millionaire.
Well, and he got in office. I think when he was like 30 or something like that. Like he was like a 30-year-old, 30-year-old. I think he was a senator the whole time. But he got in public office like 30 years old, and he's just been there ever since. I mean, for 47 years or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have to do the Trump parade video.
Yep. This is interesting. Good point.
Trying to segue into it.
Let me see here.
So we're talking about LA and how, if it's really, there
was there was a Trump parade in LA where there was a bunch of pro-Trump people coming out with their flags waving and whatnot. It's just not the normal area where you would think there would be any Trump parade, let alone even maybe just one vehicle.
It was a black guy.
Yeah.
It's just wild to me because to me like in the main we listen to the media all the time, and when you do, it's like I don't think about anything. I've never heard about this. I just heard about it because Tim Poole had on his podcast today. I was listening to. So I mean, this is Beverly Hills, man.
Actually, it is I was wondering. I was like, is it just the first 5 cars? And it's like, oh no, okay. So there's Trump train, and then there's all these other people.
Flags, and right here you got more flags. And what do you think about this, Andy?
I think they've had other parades too in LA. Actually, this is not the first one.
I know, but you never hear about them. One was in September. That was that last article. The guy got arrested for pointing a gun at the Trump parade. You didn't hear about that in the news, did you? Somebody getting arrested for pointing guns at the Trump parade. Or it doesn't stay in the news cycle very long.
I think I heard it through Tim Poole.
Yeah,
and then I looked it up. Independently just to verify it because I don't know.
I don't like trusting people unless I verify it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can trust most of Tim Poole's stuff.
Look how long this damn video is. It's still going.
Well, doesn't it?
It's like
goes
5
on
minutes.
for 5 minutes. Yeah.
It's a 5-minute video of just cars for Trump, which is insane to me. Like, I'm just surprised. And I think are they and so we'll read this, Andy. Read what he says.
A friend in LA happened to drive by on Ventura Boulevard in the Valley as a huge group of Trump supporters, Trump voters drove by. She filmed for 5 minutes and it's still going. And then she tags Donald Trump. I don't think this enthusiasm is being properly measured in polls.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Again, this is in Los Angeles. We need to keep it up. The silent majority is refusing to be silent, and that's exactly the right move. Silence won't save our country from the radical left showing our faces and using our voices will. If they can do it in LA, you can too.
So it's weird, because we talk about people not wanting to, when we're talking about that, the poll, when people aren't, how comfortable they feel saying anything. So you don't hear about this stuff, and you wonder why people are uncomfortable with saying they're a supporter. I mean, this is why no one talks about it. I didn't know anything about this until I saw it and I researched it to verify it. So I don't know. I think it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous territory, because what the problem is, what people don't realize, just like with what happened with Supreme Court justices, and what's happened with nuking the nuclear option.
Yeah.
When the Democrats played with fire with that, and they brought in the nuclear option, you'd be damned if the fucking Republicans aren't going to use it too, and that's very dangerous for our Congress and the construction of how our construction of how our country is supposed to work. And the more shit that you start sniffing out, and that you start like Joe Biden snuffing out, and the more shit that you start banning online, it's just going to come back in twofold, because eventually it's going to reverse, and
It's going to be way worse than...
Yeah, and that's what scares me.
Yeah.
So anything you guys want to say?
No, I'm good. I think I've said my piece on it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next time, guys. Thank you. Adios.
Bye-bye.